back to Spectrum TV episode 11. Can you believe it? We've got one more to go and this season is finished, and we've been really focusing on resilience and relationships this season, and it has been a great pleasure to interview our guests, as I know it will be today. So look, I hope you're safe and well wherever you are, and if you haven't met me before and this is your first time at Spectrum TV, my name is Karen Tui Boys and I am your host. I am a champion for lifelong learning and really just want to bring ideas and strategies to make coping with this fascinating, interesting time we're having in the world right now easier for all of us. So my wonderful guest today is John Shackleton. And so, hi, John.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fantastic because John is a very special friend. We've been friends for many years. John is a professional speaker, and he has been in the corporate world for many, many years. He's spoken several times at our live Teachers Matter conferences, and he is just a gem of information and wealth of knowledge. And so I wanted to share his latest passion with you today. And so welcome, John. I also wanted to tell the guests, and if you caught the end of last episode, I said that John was instrumental in helping me through one of the toughest times in my life in 2016. And so when I was brave enough to reach out and ask for help, John was one of those people I asked, and he gave me some incredible advice that just really shifted and turned my entire world. So I owe that to you, a great thanks and gratitude, John, for your wisdom and at that time. So thank you so much. So John, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that, why you're interested in this whole resilience in relationships idea.
Well, my background is sports psychology. I failed, or just failed as a swimmer, didn't quite make international standard back in the UK. Still went to Olympic trials and stuff like that, but didn't quite make the team. And I got into coaching and very quickly realized we're talking 35 years ago, so actually more than that now, nearly 40 years ago, realized quite quickly that it was this that was the problem. Originally, when I was coaching, I thought it was this, but this was making a problem. And there was no such thing as sports psych in those days. There was a qualification in the US, but we didn't have the internet, so I had to get books. So, do you remember books? Remember those things?
Yeah, I love books.
I had to get them sent over to read about that stuff and study it, and started to work with my athletes and was getting some fantastic results. And I was working with a British triathlon team. One of the guys on the team said to me, "John, would you come and talk to my salespeople about this?" It wasn't a professional sport in those days. And he had a sales team selling fax machines. That tells you how long ago it was. Some of the people watching this won't know what a fax machine is.
I know.
And I said, I looked down my nose at him, to be honest with you, and I said, well, why would I do that? And he said, because we'll pay you. And I thought, oh, shit, I'm not being paid for the stuff I'm doing with the athletes. Well, that sounds good. So that's how I became a speaker and a trainer. Only that has, or my message has changed dramatically in the last 7 or 8 years. Hugely, and I wouldn't call myself a speaker or a trainer these days, like yourself, really.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I know that, this whole COVID time, this pandemic, the world, so many people are suffering from stress-related problems. Where does this stress come from, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, it's interesting because we all look up externally for this stress and we say COVID and the government and my kids and my spouse and all of that stuff. Those are just, if you like, potential avenues for channeling stress into your brain. Whether or not you choose to accept those is up to you. Because you see, some people have chosen that COVID will not stress them. And so all stress, all of it, 100% of it, is created by our head. But there's a lot more opportunities these days for our head to latch onto for us to choose stress. So there are, it is a more difficult world. It's a much faster world these days. And for people like me, technology like this is not fun. And I would avoid it as much as I possibly can. The audience missed this, but I have a 16-year-old who just came and set all this up for me because I hate all of this. I don't enjoy all of this. But he's fine with it. And so, but the world is, everything about the world is like that now. It's faster, it's quicker, it's more electronic, and everything is a real problem. Sorry, my phone just went off and I forgot to mute it. Do apologize.
That's all right. You said electronic and it was like on cue. So I was like, oh, that was really
I did it on purpose. I didn't know, it wasn't an accident.
So, John, we hear this word mindfulness all the time, and I know this is what you talk about a lot now. So what is it and how can it help us?
Okay, I think everybody believes they understand the concept of mindfulness. And I've been studying it now for 7 or 8 years. I know I don't understand it. So I think it's really important to get that we have this word which is used, and it's used incorrectly almost all the time, to be honest. It's about a concept which has been around for 3,500 years. The concept of mindfulness is misunderstood, misinterpreted, misused, and it's something that really bugs me. That I'll put my hands up. I thought initially mindfulness was, quote, hippy dippy Buddhist rubbish that the wife does after yoga. That's what and look, I've got 2 degrees, 2 university degrees, and I made my mind up about it without really understanding it. So it's really badly misunderstood. The word is used badly, and very, very few people are actually skilled at practicing it. Having said all of that, I know quite a few that are really good at it.
So what is it exactly? Mindfulness
is the ability, really, it's the ability to stop your mind from controlling you. That's the result of that. Now, for example, at the moment, as soon as I said that, your mind immediately came up with some concepts around what I just said. Right. So where did your mind where did your mind become so clever, Karen? So, because it makes crap up, your mind, doesn't it? Like everybody's mind, it makes stuff up. If it hasn't got the answer, it'll make shit up. Excuse my French, but it does. It makes all sorts of rubbish up. It makes you worried about stuff. It wakes you at 2 o'clock in the morning telling you you didn't do this stuff yesterday and you got to do that tomorrow. It is in control of our life. If we're not careful, it starts to dominate our life. And that is exactly what anxiety and depression is. It's the mind controlling you. Now, if you think about the mind as a computer that you've been given, it's not you, it's a computer that you've been given. And if, let's say you used this as the analogy, so your mind isn't here, it's this thing. How would you feel if this was controlling you? And I believe it actually is, because it's following you around and watching what you do. How would you feel if something external to you was controlling you? How would you feel? I don't know about you, but I'd feel very upset.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what is happening. You see, it's interesting. Try this, Karen. Do me a favor, point at me so that your audience can see your finger. Point at me. Now point at you. Right, you notice you didn't point to this bit. You pointed here. Now, I don't know what you mean by that, but you already know that this is not you. And at the moment, it dominates people's lives. So I still deal a lot with athletes, and swimmers particularly, because I relate very strongly to them. And so I was working with a couple of girls, 14, 15-year-old girls, swimmers, good quality swimmers, national standard. And I said to them, what happens before a race and how does that affect what you do during a race? And one of them said, I get so anxious before a race, it destroys my ability to perform. In fact, she said, and I've never come across this before, this is a reflection of our times, she said, I'm even anxious during a race. Most athletes will, or in the past, would have told you that as soon as the gun goes, that's it. They don't worry anymore. They're into it. No, it's not the case anymore. So her mind is controlling her ability to do what she absolutely loves and what she's brilliant at. And that's an intense reflection of what's happening to the rest of the world as well, to you and to I and to everybody watching this. Their mind is steering them in directions, and it's not them. Your mind is not you. You're the one that's listening to the voice going on inside your head. You're that person that's observing that. You're not the voice in your head. That's your computer. And unfortunately, it's got a glitch. Mindfulness is the ability to reboot, to reboot the mind.
And so I'm fascinated by this, John, because I've had a few challenges with my own thinking today. And so how do we switch that off? How do we turn that around?
Okay, so if I could give you a pill that would do that, would you take it? That's all it did nothing else. It would immediately convert you to understand that your mind is not me, and I can learn to ignore it, and I can disassociate from it. I can put it up here and observe it. Most people would take a pill like that, right? Because it would help them to control their life. Well, there isn't one. There never will be one. There is no shortcut to it at all. Unfortunately, it requires constant training. It's a bit like, you want to be a great swimmer? Well, you can't wake up one morning, buy a pair of togs and go to the Olympics. It ain't going to work. You're going to have to train every single day for the next 10 years to become good enough to become world class. And that's where I think people get this mindfulness thing wrong. They think that, oh, I understand it now. That's great. Let's just forget about it. They don't practice it. So I came across this 7 years ago, and I've been practicing it every single day since then, and I would call myself a -10 novice. But I've been practicing it every single day. What about the people who never practice it? What about the people who don't even understand it? So,
okay, so tell me,
very upset about people talking about it but not really practicing it.
So what does practice look like?
Practice is basically being able to disassociate from the mind. So let's look at it this way. Your mind has two functions, right? I'm not talking about the brain. I'm talking about the mind, which most people, most of us, all scientists don't really understand what the mind is yet. But we understand what it does. It does two things. It thinks, analyzes, discusses, and thinks and creates solutions. That's one of its functions. The other function, which we're not really very aware of, is awareness. It takes in information from the senses. It brings in what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you taste, what you smell. And then your mind takes that information, analyzes it, and comes up with solutions for you. Now, when we're under the age of 2, we're really good at the awareness and really bad at the thinking. And as we grow older, we get really good at the thinking, to the point where the thinking takes over and we hardly even notice the awareness. To the point where we live our life on autopilot. We drive to work and we get there and we think, I don't remember any of that journey, because we're not aware anymore. We are technically aware, the information's going in, but we're not aware that we're aware. We don't really pay any attention to the awareness. Now, if you want to stop your mind encroaching on your life, what you have to do is improve your ability with awareness. And that takes training. That takes you instructing your mind how to become aware. It already knows, but as soon as you start thinking about awareness, your thinking mind will go, hey, this is boring rubbish. Let's go and think about this over here. And it takes you away from awareness. I'll give you an example. So everybody at home can try this. Shut your eyes for a moment and just listen to the sounds you can hear in the room you're sitting in. Okay, that was pure awareness. But even after 2 seconds, probably half a second, your mind went, what's all this about? This is a load of rubbish. It comes up with some sort of, what are those people thinking? When it will not leave you alone. You're asking your mind to stay with awareness, but no, it comes up with its thinking program. It comes up with, we need to do this, and this is a bunch of rubbish, and I've never come across this before. So the ability to stay in awareness is what we train. That's what we need to train. Now, why would we do that? Well, if you think about anxiety and depression, they're an overactive, they're the mind. If we want to get control back, we have to train our awareness. Because at any point, I suffered from depression 7 years ago, which was what drove me into this. Nowadays, you don't get rid of depression, it doesn't go away. But nowadays, I can smell it when it's around the corner, and I can go, no, thank you. I don't wish to hear you. I know how I can disassociate from my mind now. I can say, no thanks. But I can only do that because I've trained myself in awareness. And that's what mindfulness is. It's the ability to disassociate from the old mind going, don't forget you got to do this. Now, what a load of rubbish that is. What amazes me is our mind is lying to us all the time. You see, it tells you stuff that might happen. It gets you to worry about things. Well, how does it know this is going to happen? Where did it get that information from? It made it up and then it lied to you.
I heard a phrase the other day. I don't know if any of the listeners know Pluto living, but it's a dog that espouses wisdom that's come out through COVID and is beautiful. And the other day, Pluto said, worrying is like trying to cut your toenails before they grow.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
I loved it.
It's a symptom of an overactive mind.
Do you know, while you're talking, it makes me think about my own personal use of technology because, you know, I'm frenetic, I'm busy. But here's what I do. I open a tab up. Let's say I'm going to go and check my bank account. I open a tab up, and while that's loading, I think, oh, I'll open Facebook. And so while I'm doing that, I see there's a message, and then I click on that message, and then I go, oh, but I was doing the bank, and I go back, and now I have to put in my password. And while that's loading, I go back and I open another tab. And so I end up with 50 million tabs. Not quite, but it feels like it, right? And then I go, what was I going to do? And then I've logged out of the bank because I've taken too long. And so this is actually anti-mindfulness, right?
Completely, totally anti-mindfulness.
But I'm doing it all day because I'm like, got all these tabs open.
Here's what you do. You get a large glass of water, you take your phone, and you drop the bloody thing in it. These things, I understand. Listen, I couldn't survive without this. I get that. But I've removed all social media from my phone. I've removed Google from it. I've removed all the alerts, everything other than the phone, because that's what it is. It's a phone. It's for talking to people. I also use it as a way of getting to places when I'm driving because it's very good at that. But other than that, I find it a complete and huge distraction. And I've taken control and got rid of all of that. And I won't go there anymore. I'm afraid it's a really bad, I believe it to be a very bad thing. And I think it's helping drive us into this frantic problem. Now, I realize I'm on a very small minority there, but I do believe, I don't know about you, Karen, have you watched Social Dilemma?
No.
Okay, just make sure you write that down and watch that Netflix documentary. Make sure you
one about Facebook and is it controlling things?
Make sure you watch the whole thing, because if you stop halfway through, you won't sleep that night because you'll be so worried. Watch the whole thing because it's relatively positive at the end.
Okay.
But the stuff in the middle will say to you, "Oh my goodness, who's controlling my life? It ain't me." It's a very serious problem, and actually there's some lovely statistics in there about self-harm and suicide of teenage girls in America. And if you graph that, the number of incidences of that next to social media, use of social media, They are pretty much parallel. So yes, I do believe that these things, these things are a very serious problem. And I don't think I'm going to win the battle about getting people to turn them off.
Yeah, I think that's true with 3 teenage girls in my house, and seeing how much they're just totally attached to them. It's very, very scary. So what are some of the actual techniques around this mindfulness that people can use?
If you want to train your mind to be aware, then you have to focus on your senses, because awareness is about taking information from your senses. And if you look at it, mindfulness is about being present in the moment. And the only way you can do that is by taking information from your senses. So what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste. So the biggest one of those three is feeling. That's going to have the biggest impact. The easiest one to work with are sound and sight, but they don't have the strongest impact. So if you work on not your feelings, not your anger or your annoyance or anything like that. No, what you physically feel, how your body feels. If you force yourself to focus on that, focus is the wrong word, force yourself to pay attention to that information more and more. And what that is technically known as is meditation. Now, it doesn't require you to sell all your belongings, move to India, wear orange clothes, sit on the floor and go on, with your fingers like it. You can do that if you want to, but that's not what meditation is. Meditation is paying attention to your senses. End of story. So you can do that in lots and lots of different ways. However, people will say, oh, I'll become more mindful. I'll pay more attention to my senses. And then they don't. So the way to do it is to create what's called a mindful habit, which is basically meditating every day for 10 minutes. I suggest 10 minutes. If I'm dealing with somebody with anxiety or depression, I suggest twice a day for 10 minutes. What happens for people that do it, lots of people talk a great story about it but never do anything with it. And that's true of everything, isn't it? And I'm not being judgmental. I was incredibly motivated to do something with it because I had depression. I was suicidal. And I realized very quickly this was the only path that made any sense at all. So I was hugely motivated to learn this habit. So, but when you do that, what happens is the people that do that, I get phone calls from them after a week and they go, I don't know what's happened, but I feel quite a lot happier. I don't seem to be as worried as I used to be. And they can't really put a finger. And I say, you're meditating every day? Yeah, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes. Great. And then they phone me about after 3 weeks and they go, this is crazy. I feel like I'm taking drugs. Because I just feel everything's so relaxed and quiet. A bit like lockdown. Things just slow down and quieten down and become easier to manage. Because what you're doing very slowly, you're training your awareness so that you become slightly more aware every day. And your mind now has the opportunity of going to awareness instead of thinking. So nowadays, what happens for somebody like myself, I still wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I still realize it's an overactive mind. And I've only been doing this for 7 years. So I haven't been done, I did 60 years of the other stuff. So 7 years of this, I've been training myself for 7 years. So I still got an overactive mind. I wake up at 2 in the morning and I very quickly go, I know what the problem is. All I need to do is meditate. I sit up in bed, I meditate for 2 or 3 minutes, bang. The overactive mind has shut up and gone back to sleep, and then I can go back to sleep. But you're not going to get to that point unless you practice 10 minutes a day, every day, 10 minutes. Again, I come back to the swimming. You want to be an Olympic swimmer? It's going to be an hour and a half twice a day for the rest of your life. Certainly for the next 10 years. But the lovely thing about meditation is it's 10 minutes. And if you can't find 10 minutes, then I suggest you delete Facebook from your phone.
Turn the television off. Absolutely.
Nobody watches TV anymore, Karen. It's just you and me.
But Netflix or whatever it is you're watching. There's a wonderful line in Michelle Obama's book, which I love, and I believe it was from Jesse Jackson, who said, nobody is too poor to turn their TV off for 2 hours. And It's a wonderful.
That I think it should be turn TV off and Facebook off. And I know you're a big fan of Facebook. I do get that. But you'll probably realise you send me a message on Facebook, I don't get it. Siobhan says, "Oh, Karen's contacted you," and then I go and probably send you an email because I won't have anything to do with Facebook. I think it's an awfully destructive thing.
Yeah, well, I guess that's part of the mindfulness too, isn't it? Is to be able to not get sucked in, to use it for the purpose that you want to use it. And I do find, for me personally, when I'm tired, that's much harder to be able to be that mindful and to be able to put myself back on track. But I love what you're saying about practice, because I think about my yoga practice that I've been doing for years. And it's only recently when my yoga teacher said, "Welcome to your practice," I suddenly went, what am I practicing? Because I was sort of just going through the motions every morning with this yoga. And I went, what am I actually practicing? Oh, I'm practicing being present. Yes. I'm practicing staying in the moment. And I feel a little embarrassed saying that because I've been doing this for years and I've just realized. But then I've also...
Funnily enough, yoga was created as a way of getting you physically ready for meditation. That's being more present. So well done for that. I would suggest, though, that you need to be meditating at the end of a yoga session.
Yes, absolutely. So I have a 10-minute practice at the end where I do a body scan. So check in with my body and all that sort of thing, and have a mindfulness practice. And again, yes, focus on my 5 senses. What can I smell? What can I taste? What can I hear? Although I've just got a new clock that doesn't tick, which I love. Because
interesting, isn't it?
Clock.
After a while, it's funny. After a while with meditation, you learn to use those distractions to actually take you, deeper into meditation. But initially, they're unbelievably annoying, aren't they?
They're absolutely annoying.
I have a cat that is very good at knowing when I'm meditating, and I think a funny thing is, if I meditate at night in bed, sitting up, one of the cats that sleeps with us actually comes and sits next to me. I don't know seriously, there's some sort of attraction between a meditative mind and animals, because they are incredible. They're mindful all the time. They don't think at all. My goldfish definitely don't think at all.
I think it's like when you're a parent, when your children are young and you sit down on the toilet and then they just come and sit on your knee.
Yeah.
It's like, I know that you're just there. You're
very, if you're present, they like you to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, funnily enough, what I've found is that it's really improved my ability to help people. I do a lot of counseling these days with sufferers, and all I do is become mindful in their presence. And that means you actually listen, and you quite genuinely listen. You don't pretend to listen, and you don't get excited about what they say. You just really listen, and that something happens, but it only happens when you become mindful, when you force yourself into awareness. And if you can do that in somebody's presence, a relationship happens almost instantly. Of course, we're trying to create the relationship, but then it doesn't.
John, we need to wrap this up very soon, but I'm just wondering, for the teachers watching and the people watching, what other tidbits or strategies or practical suggestions can you make for them?
Okay, number one, learn to meditate. Don't get yourself some sort of coach, get yourself a mentor that you can ask you questions of, somebody that you like and trust that already has been doing 5 or 6 years of meditation. So that, they've not read a book last week. No, they really understand it. They've been part of it and they've been doing it for a long while. Get yourself a mentor that can help you do that. Go on a class, learn to meditate, and then just do it 10 minutes a day. Quite simply, that will solve 95% of our problems. It's fixed my anxiety and my depression. It's improved my relationship with my kids. And all I learned to do was get rid of this bloody thing that was talking to me and stick it up there. And it's incredible. The effect has been amazing. Absolutely amazing. Do you know, Karen, in the last 7 years, I have had one cold. And I've got teenage boys that come home with everything, and I've had one cold. And if you actually look into it, meditation boosts the immune system. It does a huge amount. It's a bit like rebooting your mind when it's got a glitch. And it sort of lets the ordinary stuff come back. It sort of reboots it, puts it back into neutral, and it goes, oh, right, oh, I see. Yeah, so, okay, yeah, we're immune now. We know what we're doing. Your health will improve. There's just so many benefits of doing it. And yet I feel with some people are so resistant to it, and I have no idea why that is. I think it requires you to become a Buddhist or something. I don't know.
No, I love what Bonnie says in the chat. She said it's a mindful habit, a deliberate act. So that's deliberately doing it 10 minutes a day or maybe more, or a couple of times a day, and how important that is. And I know that for years when I've been trying this out too, there can be weeks when I'm just hopeless at it. But it's about that practice, and then sometimes it just suddenly clicks, and I'm like, oh wow, that's it. And then the next day, can't do it again.
Yeah, right.
My brain's all over the place. And so I love what you say. It's like, 7 years. You're still practicing. You're still trying to work on it. It's not something that just happens.
The Buddhist monks that have been doing it for 40 years call it a practice.
Mm.
So, and it's something, yeah, it's a battle. It's a battle in a nicest possible way against the overactive chat, mind.
Mm.
If people want to look at that, if they go to my website, johnshack.com, there's 3 or 4 ebooks in there. One of them's called How to Meditate, but I would strongly suggest get yourself a mentor of some, get somebody to teach you.
Okay, we'll put that in the chat, so johnshackleton.com, so that people can look it up, download the books if they'd like, but highly suggest, even if it's an online video that you use every day, or a person as a mentor, highly recommend that. John, yeah. I know that, and this, our wonderful friend Ali Mooney has been watching, and I know she's one of our biggest fans, and she says, I know John well, his talk on this and his practices are totally in alignment, which I absolutely know. So that is fantastic. And so thank you for sharing this afternoon, this evening, this morning, whenever our people are watching. And I know that it is a practice. It's something you just got to keep doing and doing and doing. So I really appreciate your time and your presence to be able to share with us this evening. No. Ali says, hi, John. So, so that's great. And Erin, another one of our big fans, is saying, thanks for your honesty. And Bonnie's saying, thanks so much as well. So she says lots of affirmations of what she's been doing in her own practice and her work. So that's great. So again, thank you, John. For our viewers, next week is our final episode of this season, and I'm interviewing the amazing Carrie Sutton from Australia. She's a professional speaker, and she really talks about resilience. And I know that she will dovetail what John has said, but she will also bring some energy and some wonderful ideas about what you do with that little voice inside your head. And I know she's got a beautiful phrase.
Tell it to.
Yes, she's got a nicer way to do that. So we'll share that next week. And even what she calls it is just beautiful. So for our wonderful viewers, thank you so much. Go to spectrumtv.com and Spectrum Education, spectrumtv.com, and you will be able to find out more and watch the other episodes and share this one as well. So please stay safe, keep learning, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. So thanks, and bye for now.